So one of the things that I like to do to this to create neat little shadows is these little drop shadows. So down and away from our light source. And the idea is to try and mimic the shape of the element that is casting the shadow. So in this particular case, it's going to be down and away, and down and away. So I love those little drop shadows. They just help give our piece a little more interest. You can do the same thing with these leaves here. Just a little. Deepen some shadows up there. Just like that. I'm going to deepen this shadow on our stem, and I really want to brighten that highlight up there on the stem. So I'm going to do that with a little bit of, get a stencil brush and a little bit of that warm white. Whoops, jeez. There we go. So we've got a nice bright highlight on there. Our next step is to finish off this lettering and then add final shading to this piece, and we are done. So on our lettering, it looks kind of flat as it is. So we're going to use just a small shadow. Now I'm using the point of my brush just to create a little bar on my lettering, just because I want sort of a, again, that little bit of a dropped shadow on the far right side of each letter, on the vertical, inside the curves, like so. But they're not pretty, they're not fancy, they're simple. They don't need to be elaborate or perfect. We're just creating the illusion of a little shadow, that's all. So if they look a little chunky, that's all right. You can see what I mean. It's just going to give the lettering a little bit of elevation, as if it's slightly floating above the surface. The brush that I'm using, I'm actually going to use two brushes for this. I'm using a number 2 rigger, and I'm going to use a 5/0 extra long detail liner, just because I'm working on slightly smaller lettering than on this bigger piece here. And this one is done with the number 2. But it's the finer lines, so I've reserved my extra long detail liner for that. So I'm going to do all of my vertical lines with that number 2, and all of these curved bits. But the only thing I'm not going to do is all of those little fine lines. All those little fine lines will be done with the liner, just to give them a cleaner look. That's all. And I like this font for this. It kind of looks kind of spooky, but it's not an overly complex font. It is pretty though. It does have that little bit of elegance to it. Kind of works with the whole Gothic thing a little bit. But again, it's not a complex font, but it is kind of pretty. And it's an easy one to paint. You don't need to have a ton of fancy brushes to do it. It works. It's pretty straightforward font. So I've got all of my verticals done using thinned lamp black. I'm going to do the fine details with this. This is a 5/0 extra long detail liner. It's a Dynasty Micron. And I love these brushes for a couple of reasons. One, they hold paint. That's a big thing for me as far as a liner is concerned. If it doesn't hold paint, I'm not interested. There's nothing more frustrating than doing line work and having your brush run out of paint halfway through or a third the way through. So it's important to have a liner brush that will hold paint, and these ones do. They do have a nice chunky little belly in them, so they hold a lot of paint, and they also have a beautiful sharp point, so they are excellent for this type of thing. And because they've got a little belly, you can play with this brush a little bit. Like, you can make it do things. So I can make a thicker line just by pressing and letting the brush open up, which is a big deal. And I can do those things because it'll hold some paint. You try to do details with a brush that doesn't hold any paint. It's like working with a pencil with no lead. So, all of those little connectors I'm going to do with thinned lamp black and that 5/0 liner. Super easy. Look at that. It's also a nice brush to control. I've found with some liners that the longer it is, the harder it is to control. And I found that this one is so nicely balanced that it's an easy brush to work with. I'm not having to fight with it to get it to do what I need it to do. And it's easy to control it. It does what I want it to, when I want it to. And it does it with all kinds of paint in it, which is even more important. There we go. Happy Halloween. So I'm going to dry this really well, and then I'm going to tweak a couple of shadows, just bring everything into line, and then we'll finish it off with a little bit of spattering. I love spatter. So shading, I just want to bring in a little bit across the bottom here. Just a little float right across the bottom. All it does just curves this a little bit, makes it look like it's not a flat surface. Oh, I like it. And then I'm going to grab my fugly brush. I know you guys laugh at me for calling it that, but it really is a fugly brush. I love it though. So we're going to use that fugly brush, and I'm going to spatter it with 3 different colors. I'm going to spatter it with a little bit of thinned warm white, just a little and controlled, like so. I'm going to rinse it out, and I'm going to do this again with a little bit of thin asphaltum, because I like my asphaltum. And again, controlled, not a ton of it. You don't need a ton of it. And it's fine. I'm using a very fine spatter. And then last but not least, I like to use a little bit of thinned lamp black. And again, I am using it in a controlled fashion, not obliterating everything. I just like to use a little of all 3 colors. So we're going to dry that. Now, to seal this, all you really need is 2 or 3 light coats of Decor Matte Spray. And I just saw something that I missed. And I can still fix it. I missed a spot on this H. There we go. And there we go. We've got our little mate to our bigger Happy Halloween. The technique for the roses, the leaves, and the bow and the pumpkin are exactly the same regardless of which size you try to paint. So I hope you guys enjoyed this piece. I really enjoy painting for Halloween. I don't do it very often, but here we go. There we have it. Pretty pumpkins. So much fun to paint. So if you're looking for the pattern or the surfaces, or if you have any comments or questions, come and visit me at my website at tracymoreau.net. You know where to find me. Click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send me a message with either your question or just to say hello, whichever you like to do. I'm more than happy to respond, and I try to do it as quickly as I can. So, as I said, the instructions for this piece, the pattern, is available on my website at tracymoreau.net, as are the surfaces, which are currently all on sale right now, so have a look. And if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to get in touch. Everybody have a great weekend, and thanks for watching.